All right, welcome back to yapping every day until I eat spinach. I don't know. Welcome back to yapping every day, day 5, until something happens. Until my next upload, I guess, because I uploaded yesterday, which, like I said, in yesterday's yapping every day, didn't expect to do. But anyway, yapping every single day. I don't know how many I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just keep going until I miss a day, and then I guess if I want to do it again, I'll start again from day 1. Yapping every day until I break my streak, I guess. Regardless, oh shoot, what was I thinking about? Oh yeah, aliens. Okay, so let's jump straight into the thick of it with what I was thinking about with aliens. So we're not gonna make contact with aliens in either of our lifetimes. I'm sorry to say it, but that's just how it is. I know I can't be 100% sure. There are things we don't know, but based on what we do know about the universe and how painfully fucking slow the speed of light is compared to how big the universe is, yeah, we're not going to make contact with aliens anytime soon. Faster than light travel would have to be invented to, well, get people out of our solar system without a whole generation passing. But, you know, I could be ignorant to some things. We are making advances in science every single day, and, you know, on and on. But from what I do know, we are not going to make contact with aliens anytime soon, but it is fun to think about them because they definitely exist just by a probability thing. There's aliens somewhere. And I was thinking, what do you think they'll be like? Because I don't think they would be anything like us, right? There's kind of two main possibilities with alien physiology, and that is either like they'll be like us because DNA and cells and stuff is like the only way for life to happen, or that isn't the only way for life to happen, and so they won't be anything like us at all. Like, but if there is another way for life to happen, at least for now, we don't know it. So I'm going to go with the assumption that they will be similar to the life on Earth in the fact that they'll be structured with cells and they'll have DNA and all that stuff. All right, so let's just take that, because even if it's not the case, that's what I'm doing for this. I wonder, like, the differences in their biology, what differences that would make in their culture and in their ethics and what they would think of us, right? Imagine, like, a species that photosynthesizes, right? I've made my own little alien species. I think I mentioned before in the first episode, or maybe the second. No, it was the second. They photosynthesize. Imagine an intelligent species that doesn't need to consume living matter to get energy, right? Or maybe they do eat, but they eat non-living things, right? What would they think of us eating meat and like the whole meat industry and how we treat animals? Like, surely they would not see us as morally good, right? And then what does that mean for us and for, you know, for our morals? Obviously, I don't think animals are treated well, to be honest, like in the meat industry. I think once we get, I mean, like, they're already able to 3D print meat, basically. It's not like exact 3D printing, but it's basically what it is. I think once we can, like, mass produce that, it just wouldn't make sense to raise animals and just to kill them anymore. At least ideally they would be, we would switch over to that, and or animals will be treated humanely. Only time will tell, I guess. But I think they would probably see it as more evil than just as evil as if how we would see it if they took slaves, right? I think a common thing everyone can agree is wrong is slavery. If we found an alien society that their whole thing, their whole shtick was slavery, we would probably hate them, right? But like, imagine an alien species where their whole thing is slavery, and like they don't see anything wrong with that, and slaves don't see anything wrong with that, and maybe they treat them more humanely, or maybe they enslave a species that's been genetically evolved or genetically modified to serve. What does that mean? What do we think of that? Do we leave them alone, or do we try to impose our morals on them? There's a certain line to be drawn with imposing your morals on people, because at a certain point you're objectively not helping. But where do you draw the line? You know, between improving and getting rid of harm and causing harm. Right? And I think that's a problem we run into on a daily basis on Earth. You know, so let alone aliens. I don't know how well we'd be able to coexist. I think we could coexist. I think it's definitely possible. But I don't know how much we could intermingle if we wanted to coexist. And then another thing about aliens is like, if their physiology is different, how are we going to interact with them, right? Like, they probably won't see the same wavelengths of light that we do. If they see, shoot, they may not even see, they may not hear, they may not have any of the senses we do, and we may not have any of the senses they do. Like, how do you plan for aliens? I think that's one of the things I really like about Voyager and the disc that it has, I think it's called the Golden Record. Yeah, the Golden Record. The instructions it has are interesting, and I think they're cool, but there are some things human-centric about them, like the fact that it has arrows on it that lead to our planet, and the fact that it's visually based. You could touch it maybe and feel the grooves in it to get a sense of what is on it, but even then, how do you know what it's showing? What if they have no concept of 2D art, right? Or anything like that? What if they don't feel in the same way? There's no guarantee that the Golden Record could be useful at all to an alien species. And you know, I don't know. I wonder if they'd be, this is really dumb, like comparatively, but I wonder if they'd be taller or shorter. And my thing with that is the way gravity is. So I think they would be taller if they had lower gravity and shorter if they had higher gravity, right? Because higher gravity is pulling them down more. It's just easier to be a smaller being, right? I could be wrong on that. Maybe gravity doesn't... I mean, we have animals of all kinds of sizes here on Earth, so maybe gravity doesn't have any effect on that. I mean, we have... It seems more like oxygen supply or whatever you would breathe has more of an impact on that, because, like, bugs were huge until the oxygen got thinner and the atmosphere got thinner, and then there wasn't enough of it for them to sustain how massive they were, at least from what I know. Again, this is all very speculative and basically intellectual play. I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. But yeah, there's that. But I would think that a lower gravity would mean they would be taller, or it would be easier for them to evolve to be taller. But that's just me. And then also, what would they breathe? You know, the way we look for life on other planets right now, it is very cool. Don't get me wrong. Right now, the way that we look for life on other planets with like the James Webb Space Telescope is by looking at tiny dips of light in their atmosphere and then using that data to see what the atmosphere is made of. And that's fucking insane. We're talking about like planets millions or billions of light years away, like going just barely making a dip in starlight and then picking that up and measuring what wavelengths of light disappear. It's insane. But and it's very impressive, but it's a little bit limiting because it assumes that other life would breathe in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide, would need a certain ratio of gases in their atmosphere. What if life evolved that just didn't need to breathe? What if life evolved and they breathed fucking, I don't know, hydrogen? What if they breathed nitrogen? What if they breathed, I don't know, anything? I mean, plants breathe carbon dioxide. And I guess, you know, they do have a use for it, and they do have a supply of it, and I'm not a biologist or a chemist. I don't know what chemicals and compounds and stuff could be used to create life. I don't know what would be like useful for life to use, right? Is it like maybe we breathe oxygen and carbon dioxide just because those are the like what would be used by life, and like there's no use for the other gases to be breathed? Or maybe it just was like random chance, and you know, we'll run into another alien species that is similar to us, but they breathe they breathe straight carbon. No, they breathe like nitrogen and I don't know, drink ammonia. Like another thing was like water. Like would they need water? We assume water is the basis for life because, well, that's the basis for our life, but maybe it's not the same everywhere else. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just like thinking about this stuff. I'm more interested. I am very interested in their biology and physiology, but I would say I'm a little more interested in the cultural differences between them that would arise because their physiology, and also the linguistic differences. I guess that would fall under cultural, but like linguistic, religious, scientific, like all the, you can't assume that alien life would be similar to us in any way at all. And I think that the most likely case scenario for us finding intelligent life is us and them coexisting by kind of just leaving each other be and letting us do our own things, because we're so different that there's not really an ability to cross the communication barrier. You know what I mean? And it's like, how do we even know that they're intelligent? Like, how do we know that they're intelligent and sentient? I mean, we already have a problem knowing where to draw the line with consciousness. How are we supposed to say that an alien species is intelligent enough for us to consider them also intelligent life on our level? What if they're, and how do we know that we're intelligent enough to count for them? You know? And is it even an intelligence thing? Is it just an awareness thing? What if they're half as intelligent as the average human being, but they're more aware? They're more conscious of what's going on around them. And I don't know. Where do we draw the line there? What do we say about that? What does that mean for us? Is there a difference in intelligence and consciousness? We kind of assume that the two are together, that as you get more intelligence, you get more conscious, but I feel like there's a difference between them, because different people are different amounts of intelligent, and I would be hard pressed to find someone that says that more intelligent people are more conscious, right? You know, you wouldn't, I'm not super intelligent. I'm like average intelligence. I wouldn't assume that or say that someone that's a higher intelligence than me is more conscious. I, I would say, like, what goes back to, like, what even is intelligence, I guess, and consciousness? Do you keep them? You don't keep consciousness. Do you keep intelligence? You know, you lose consciousness every few hours because you need to sleep. You lose consciousness when you go under for surgery. Do you lose your intelligence? The more awareness you lose, I guess we would say the less intelligence you have. But intelligence is really hard to define because, I mean, you can't define it with just like IQ, because IQ is a pattern recognition test and I guess that's really what it is. It's just a pattern recognition test. And it doesn't identify like every single type of pattern that you could come across that you could be good at recognizing. How would we know that something is intelligent if it doesn't have a brain that functions the same way as ours? Our brain is a giant bundle of trillions of neural connections that detect patterns, right? Like AGI isn't going to be made by an LLM because LLMs aren't designed in a way that they can gain intelligence. And I could be wrong on that, but I mean, if you wanted to get AGI, the first thing you would probably do is look at what has intelligence on the earth. It's humans, and then design it after our brain. And that would be trillions and trillions of connections that recognize patterns, right? But I guess it's not just pattern recognition because there are emotions. Why does the brain know when to release certain emotions? It can't all be learned. I mean, I guess maybe it could all be learned. Babies look to adults for how to react to things. That's why it's important to not overreact if a baby, you know, falls over or gets a minor injury, because then it'll overreact. You know, it looks to you to see, okay, is this bad, or is this just like, does it hurt, or is it dangerous? And maybe it's all learned. But I don't think it could be, because while it's unethical to test on people by just like having them born and then cutting off all their contact with people, there have been unfortunate cases in which someone hasn't had contact with other people during their critical period. That's what it's called in psychology, I believe. And they still have emotions. Maybe they don't know how best to express them or how to manage them, but you would be hard pressed to, you know, say that there's psychopaths. Psychopaths can learn to imitate emotions, but they don't have the emotions, so it's not the same thing. Learning to imitate emotions is a pattern recognition thing, but emotions themselves aren't. They're chemicals. Maybe learning when to release those certain chemicals is pattern recognition, and so maybe you could say that emotions are pattern recognition, but I don't know. And I feel like with all of these questions, the one common thing that you come back to is just you hit a wall and you just say, I don't fucking know. Like, how could you know? How are we supposed to test? I guess that's one of the next big frontiers of science. I don't think space is the final frontier. I feel like we could discover faster than light travel before we could discover the basis of consciousness. And sure, I can't know that for sure, but just given their nature, it may be one of those things that just we couldn't ever know. And that's another thing. There are some things we just won't ever know. How are we to... there are some things that we won't know because we just can't find the last piece of evidence, or we can't ever test it. And maybe other species of intelligent life could, because they have the tools at their disposal needed, but we don't. Why is it we have the tools needed and the science to make like weapons that can destroy the population of the entire Earth. But I mean, we can't figure out what awareness is or how to get faster than light travel. I guess one of those is not like the other. Trying to figure out the basis of awareness is not like trying to make an atom bomb, but I feel like trying to do space travel is in a similar vein to making the atom bomb happen. Maybe we just need to give more budget to NASA, honestly. NASA doesn't get nearly as much of a budget. NASA doesn't get nearly as much of a budget as it deserves, in my opinion. I think it's like if you had the entire United States budget as $1, NASA would get half a cent, I think is what it was, which is insane. I do not mean to get as like what's it called? Not deep. I guess you could say deep, but that feels cringe. I didn't mean to get as existential with this one, I guess. But it was on my mind. I started thinking about aliens, and I started thinking about that. I hope and pray that I believe deep down in my soul that humanity is good and people are good, and it's not going to be, it's not fully baked into us to cause harm to each other. That it's something that with time and progress could be weeded out, that we could form one society as humanity. But maybe not. Maybe we couldn't do that. Maybe we couldn't have peace among all of humanity. And that would suck. But hopefully we can have enough peace between us to recognize that everyone is the same in the important ways, and everyone deserves respect and love and deserves a fair chance at life. And hopefully the same could be said for when we meet aliens, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Unless we go extinct, then but maybe they'd find our ruins. And it would be interesting. We do have a satellite that's kind of like a little memory box. I think that's what those are called. Time capsule for aliens that says, hey, this is what we were in case we don't exist. Even then, I don't know if they'd even be able to decipher it. And again, it's not even just aliens. I mean, shit. What is life going to be like millions of years from now? Billions of years from now? How are we going to plan for that? Even if it's life that hails from Earth, it's going to be completely alien to us. Maybe they'll have the same senses. Maybe they'll have the same senses. Maybe not. Maybe they'll have language. Maybe they'll... I don't know. How is technology going to influence evolution? I don't know. And I guess that's the thing, isn't it? No one knows. And it's kind of beautiful that way. The future isn't known, so you're not doomed to tell one story. Anyway, love y'all.